There is an obsession that almost everyone who has ever loved a narcissist must face. They may have left, but in your mind, they're still there. Even when reason tells you it's over, a part of you still wonders. Who are they with now? Are they happy? Have they really changed? Or are they just pretending again? These questions, seemingly harmless, are the invisible strings that keep you bound, draining your energy, your faith, and the light within you into a past that never deserved you. But the truth is, what you're imagining doesn't exist. The happiness they flaunt is merely a new act in the same old play. Every smile, every photo, every sweet word they post is just a coat of paint over the same rotting cracks inside. The narcissist doesn't change. They only change scenery to repeat the same script. Behind the curtain, it's still emptiness, the fear of being forgotten, and the addiction to control that was never healed. They haven't upgraded their life. They've simply moved to a new stage one where they can replay their favorite role. The charming one, the wounded one, the one who needs saving. But like every false performance, sooner or later, the curtain falls, revealing the same raw truth they've always been running from. This video isn't meant to make you gloat or reopen old wounds. It's not here to plant bitterness, but to give you back awareness, the sharpest weapon for your liberation. When you see through the illusion, when you realize that what you called an ending was actually the beginning of your freedom, you'll understand losing them was never a loss. It was a quiet act of salvation the universe wrote especially for you. Part 1. The Illusion of Happiness, when the new play is just an old curtain. After leaving you, the narcissist often steps right into a new role that's been carefully staged. They make everyone believe they're living their best life, yet full of radiant smiles, travel photos, and public displays of affection with their new love. Their social media becomes a gallery of happiness, as if you never existed, as if everything you shared was just a faint chapter in their story. But if you look closely, you'll notice something. Everything looks too perfect, too fast, and too theatrical to be real. What you're seeing isn't love. It's a personal PR campaign directed by their wounded ego. Every photo, every caption, every smile carries the same silent message to you and to the world. I'm fine. I'm the winner. I've moved on, and you're still stuck. They're not showing happiness. They're performing power. The irony is that the new person often isn't new at all. It might be a coworker they've been flattering for months, a mutual acquaintance who has quietly followed your life, or even someone you once trusted and introduced. Narcissists often plan their supply transfer long before the previous relationship ends because they fear emptiness. They can't stand the silence that follows loss, so they always need an escape route, another person, to keep their fragile ego warm. But real love cannot be born from the fear of loneliness. It cannot be built on betrayal, calculation, and performance. What they call a new beginning is simply the next act of the same old play, and the new partner, tragically, doesn't realize that they aren't being loved. They're being cast as a replacement. A truly kind person would never enter someone's story by stepping over another's pain. They wouldn't pour new illusions into a relationship that hasn't healed. But those who insert themselves into such dynamics rarely come from compassion. They come from the same emptiness, the need to feel special, to be chosen, to win. They think they've won you over, not realizing they've just walked into the same cycle of manipulation you barely escaped. That's why the new relationship often begins with intensity, constant messages, early declarations of love, grand promises and gestures that make the new person believe they've found the one. But it's just the idealization phase, the first stage of the narcissistic cycle. Idealize, control, devalue, discard. The initial euphoria isn't love, it's an addiction to conquest. And when that high fades, the narcissist sinks into the same boredom, only this time the damage is deeper and the fallout greater. The narcissist doesn't really change partners, they change audiences. The new person isn't love. They're a new mirror, reflecting the same character the narcissist has always played, the misunderstood hero or the tragic victim. They need someone to believe their story, to keep feeling like the center of the universe. But like every mirror, this one will also crack. When the new partner starts to tire of the tantrums, when they begin to see that the perfect person only loves themselves, when the praise stops, the illusion collapses. And then the old pattern returns. The narcissist devalues, criticizes, blames, and finally leaves. The difference is, this time it happens faster, harsher, because the new partner lacks the emotional foundation you once built. Few dare to admit it, but when you see them with someone clearly below your level, less educated, shallower, or more dependent, it's not a coincidence, it's a deliberate strike. The narcissist uses the new person as a psychological weapon to whisper to you, even this person is better than you. But the truth is, they haven't upgraded, they've descended. They've sunk into a lower realm where both live off illusion. One needs to be worshipped and the other is willing to worship. That's not love, that's codependency. In the beginning, the new partner becomes the loyal cheerleader. They're thrilled to be chosen, grateful for crumbs of attention, and eager to inflate the narcissist's ego daily. They smile when praised, stay silent when scolded, and try to be perfect. But that's just a trap disguised as affection. Once they grow tired, stop complying, ask questions, or demand respect, the narcissist's mask slips. They turn cold, irritable, and contemptuous, and the cycle of destruction begins again. On the outside, you may still hear their laughter, but inside, karma has already begun, because no one can run forever from themselves. The narcissist can move from one person to another, from one relationship to the next, but they cannot escape their own inner void. Each time they use someone else to fill it, that void only grows wider, darker, deeper. And so the painful but liberating truth is this: they have never found happiness, they've only found new places to hide from themselves. You didn't lose, you escaped. They didn't win. They're still trapped in their own private hell, a place without love, filled only with illusions reflected back from their fear and loneliness. Part 2, Karma. How consequences return to haunt the narcissist. Karma does not come to the narcissist in loud, cinematic ways. It arrives quietly, slowly, corroding layer by layer like rust, eating away at the steel frame of a building once thought indestructible. At first, no one notices the change. They still smile, still boast, still try to project an image of thriving more than ever. But the universe operates by its own laws. It needs no judge, no punishment, only reflection. Every energy sent out eventually returns at the same frequency. And for the narcissist, that means the darkness they once spread becomes the room they must now live in, without escape, without audience, without spotlight. Their suffering begins within their own body. The emotional hunger they once fed through the attention of others now rises like a beast. With no one left to admire them, no one to react, no one to play the victim they could dominate, they enter withdrawal like an addict cut off from their drug. Sleepless nights follow, haunted by dreams of faces that have left them. By day, their mind wanders through old conversations, repeating words that once made others cry, trying to convince themselves they were right all along. Their body weakens, their heart races, food loses its taste. The emptiness in their gut can no longer be filled with material things, because what they truly crave is not comfort, but reflection. So they turn to the new partner, the one they once called the perfect supply. But in a twist of fate, that person becomes their mirror. Everything the narcissist once despised in others now shows up in their own relationship. Control, deceit, selfishness, betrayal. The new partner talks back, exposes lies, and manipulates them, using the same tactics the narcissist once believed only they could master. They begin to taste their own medicine, the coldness, the dismissal, the blame. Every broken lie cuts into the ego they thought was invincible. Stripped of control, they shake like a child whose favorite toy has been taken away, unable to understand why their tricks no longer work. As the new relationship unravels, their social circle starts to crumble too. The friends who once applauded them quietly pull away. The victim stories no longer inspire sympathy. Texts go unanswered, calls ignored. Co-workers whisper about their strange behavior. Acquaintances say openly, you just can't trust them anymore. The circles shrink until only echoes remain. They keep talking, keep performing, but no one listens. That silence is karma's first knock at the door, the world returning to them the same silence they once used to punish others. Then comes the betrayal of material life. The money they once gained through charm, manipulation, or borrowed goodwill begins to vanish. Opportunities dry up. Contracts fall through. Business partners keep their distance. Emotional debts turn into literal ones, unpaid bills, rent, obligations. The person who once equated money with power learns the truth. No one trusts them enough to lend or collaborate anymore. The home they once flaunted feels cold and dim. The new car sits unused in the garage because they can't afford the gas. Every luxury they once showcased now mocks them as relics of a false identity. From the outside, the world withdraws. From the inside, the mind collapses. Without anyone left to control, they're forced to face themselves, the one thing they've always feared. In the mirror, they see a stranger. Tired face, dull eyes, ashen skin. Without reflection from others, they glimpse decay. Guilt, shame, and fear emotions they once projected onto others now return, seizing their mind piece by piece. They try to build new narratives, find new supply, but each cycle burns out faster, emptier, harsher. The universe has begun collecting its debt, and this time the interest is heavy. Each night they're hunted by dreams. Faces that once loved them, cried because of them, said, I can't take it anymore. In those dreams they cannot lie or defend. They can only stand there, hearing their own cruel words echo back in the tears of others. They wake up soaked in sweat, heart pounding, breath shallow, feeling a weight pressing on their chest. There are no demons from outside, only their own shadow, come to collect what's owed. Their energy becomes chaotic. Sudden rage, outbursts at midnight, panic in crowded places. They lose track of truth and fiction, of what they actually lived and what they invented. New relationships collapse faster than ever. They blame others, fate, the world, but deep down they know the problem is not outside, it's them. And that realization is when karma takes root. That's the moment of true despair, because no one can save them from themselves. As time passes, they age rapidly. Their faces tighten, their eyes dim, their posture shrinks. The arrogance that once made them magnetic now contorts into paranoia. They avoid mirrors. They avoid truth. Every honest word feels like a beam of light cutting through their darkness, and the darkness screams in pain. No one curses them. It's simply their false self decaying. They may still dress well, still post photos smiling, but the smile never reaches their eyes. Behind the screen sits a sleepless, trembling person, terrified of being forgotten. Then the day comes when no one cares anymore. No one checks on them. No one mentions their name. Their last post sits unanswered, a few lonely lines fading into the void. That's their worst fear realized. To be forgotten. To normal souls, that's peace. But to them, it's spiritual death. With no audience left to perform for, no eyes watching, no reactions feeding them, they start talking to themselves, rehearsing old arguments, replaying old dialogues. The noise in their head grows so loud they become afraid of silence. They turn on the TV, the music, anything to drown it out, but the noise only deepens their loneliness. Karma for the narcissist isn't catastrophe, it's isolation. No one judges, no one punishes, no one strikes them down. The universe simply reclaims what they exploited, the audience, the trust, the reflection, the light. And so, in the same darkness they once created for others, they must now live day after day until they understand or until they collapse. No one sees them fall because no one is watching anymore. And that is the cruelest punishment of all. When the whole world is silent, and the only sound left is the echo of their own voice in an empty room, by then, you, the one who once lit their world, have long walked away. You need no revenge, no cosmic intervention. The universe has already acted with perfect justice. The truth is, you never need to witness their downfall, because they're already living in it, a private hell, where every breath is a sentence, every memory a mirror, and every sunrise a reminder that no one believes them anymore. That is when karma completes its circle. The one who manipulated others becomes manipulated by their own mind. The one who created fear now lives in eternal fear, and far away you hold no resentment. You simply see the order of life, the way light never has to fight darkness, because darkness collapses on its own once there's no light left to feed on. Part 3 when they come back. Tactics of manipulation, and the real reasons why, when the narcissist's new relationship starts to crack, they turn back to you, not because they miss you, and not because they're sorry. What they're after is your familiar energy, your reactions, your emotions, your compassion. They need you the way an addict needs a hit, and they will never approach you with a sincere apology. They come armed with tactics. First is love bombing, a carefully staged emotional storm. Messages full of longing, sugary apologies, shared memories, promises that this time will be different. They bring up your best days together, call you the only one who ever understood them, swear they've changed, say they've learned their lesson, even claim the new person could never compare to you. None of this is love. It's a seance, summoning the part of you that once craved recognition. The moment you react even with a single line, they've got what they wanted, a connection. If love bombing isn't enough, they pivot to a subtler tactic, future faking. They sketch glowing futures, a fresh start where we'll get it right this time, where this will be the last mistake. They talk about a dream home, a shared trip, even marriage, as if all you have to do is believe once more. But those aren't plans, they're bait. They have no intention of following through. They just need you to reinvest emotionally so they can reclaim center stage in your life. If you still keep your distance, they switch roles from aggressor to victim. They start lamenting, I'm depressed. You don't understand what I've been through. No one has ever loved me like you. They try to make you believe you're the only one who can save them. And if you bring up the past, they deploy DAVO, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. They deny wrongdoing, attack you for being jealous or too sensitive, and then cast themselves as the injured party. I did everything for you, and you still doubt me. In an instant, you're confused, guilty, and forgetting that they are the one who hurt you. In that confusion, they move to gaslighting, bending your reality. They deny memories, twist your words, and make you doubt your own perceptions. I never said that you're imagining things. You're overreacting. They lure you into a maze where you no longer trust your memory, and only their words count as truth. In that fog, they seize control again. And if gaslighting fails, they use projection, accusing you of the very things they do. They cheat, but accuse you of betrayal. They manipulate, but call you controlling. The sole aim is to make you doubt yourself and to force you to defend and explain while they sit above it all, passing judgment. Often, to intensify the effect, they add triangulation, bringing in a third person to divide and conquer. They mention an ex, a friend, or even the new supply, with vague lines like, she really understands me. He's so different from you. The goal is to spark jealousy, draw out a reaction, and drag you back into a competition for control. To a narcissist, your jealousy is proof they still have power. If you still don't respond, they play their last card, intermittent reinforcement. They alternate coldness with sweetness, indifference with attention. One day, I miss you. The next, silence. One night they're tender, the next morning they vanish. Your brain, destabilized by the reward-punishment loop, starts craving the high of their attention. You can't predict what's coming, and that very uncertainty traps you. If all else fails, they escalate to crisis hoovering, faking, a breakdown to hook your empathy. They suddenly reach out through tears. I'm not okay. I don't want to live. I need to talk. They know your soft heart, and they aim straight for it. But remember, someone truly committed to change seeks therapy, not an ex to perform a new act for. When none of this works, they still don't stop. They turn social media into the final battlefield, Cryptic posts, random likes, suggestive comments, accidentally visible photos, anything to remind you they exist. Every move has one purpose: to make you react. If you feel anger, sadness, or confusion, they've won because they still live in your mind. Why do they do all this? Because when you leave, they lose their mirror. Their entire ego is built on how others see them, and when that light goes out, they no longer know who they are. They return not out of love, but out of fear, fear of the void. They want proof they can still make you waver, still pull a reaction. To them, that's evidence they still have power. Any regret they feel is merely nostalgia for the feeling of control. So when they come back, don't ask, are they sincere? The right question is, what do they want from me this time? Narcissists don't seek you to love, they seek you to survive. And once you understand that, you stop hoping they'll change. They are not returning for love, they're fleeing themselves. Your silence is a mirror they cannot bear, and that is exactly why your silence is your greatest power. Part 4. When silence becomes the mirror of truth, when every trick has been spent, when every ambiguous signal fails, when counterfeit tenderness no longer moves you, that's when the narcissist faces a real panic. Because what they fear most isn't being hated, it's being ignored. When you stop reacting, when their phone no longer lights up with your messages, when your eyes no longer search for them in a crowd, their inner universe begins to collapse. They feel themselves dissolving, as if their very existence is being erased from reality. In their mind, a voice asks, if no one is thinking about me, do I even exist? What sounds philosophical becomes a deadly obsession for them. Their ego was born of reflection, not essence. They live by other people's light. Yours, the audience's, the people they manipulate. When that light goes out, they no longer know who they are. That is the narcissist's true hell. Not rejection, but the absence of anyone left to reflect them. At first, they still try to salvage a sense of power with half-truths and performances. They post confident, happy photos, beam beside the new partner, flaunt a new job, happen to show up where you used to go. But the more they try to prove it, the more their emptiness shows. You can't hide for long the tremor in the shoulders of someone terrified of being forgotten. The former master of every situation now stumbles in the very silence they once weaponized. Your silence becomes a sacred mirror saying nothing, yet revealing everything. It shines straight into their void, where there's no one left to blame and no game left to win. Each day you remain silent is another day they face the reality that they no longer control you. They start sending short texts, just wanted to know you're okay. I miss your smile. I know I was wrong. Those words don't carry remorse. They're life preservers tossed into the storm of their inner panic. When you don't answer, the fear multiplies. This is when the truth is laid bare. The narcissist isn't as strong as they pretended. Behind the cold exterior is a small, dependent, frightened soul. Your silence becomes the echo of truth that you got free, that they have no power anymore. Every minute you stay calm is a cut into the illusion they built. Your steadiness disorients them because you cannot manipulate someone who no longer reacts. Gradually, as they realize you truly won't return, they begin to experience what psychology calls narcissistic collapse. For the first time, they feel weak, disoriented, and unbearably empty. They may hunt for new supply, but everything feels dull. No one reflects them the way you once did because you reflected them with the light of genuine compassion, something they cannot replicate with performance. In this stage, karma works silently but precisely. They're not struck by lightning or catastrophe. They rot from within. Joy evaporates. Victories feel hollow. Even their own lies fail to convince them. Life turns into a loop of staged days, no feeling, no meaning. And you, once the victim, become the witness to a larger truth. When you stop participating in the game collapses by itself. That is the fairest verdict. No revenge, no proving, no exposing required. Simply choose silence, keep your composure, and continue living your own life, and all the power they once stole crumbles to dust. Real love never needs to be wrestled for. and counterfeit power cannot exist in quiet. When you stop reacting, they lose the stage, the audience, and finally themselves. Remember, you don't defeat them with hatred, but with awakening. You don't need to shout your worth, you walk away with calm. In that calm, the universe speaks for you. Light never argues with darkness. It simply shines, and darkness disappears on its own. In the end, every emotional storm eventually comes to rest. Not because you won, but because you no longer wish to fight. A strange, profound peace begins to settle when you realize that you no longer need explanations, recognition, or for them to see anything at all, because what needed to be seen, you have seen. What needed to be understood, you have understood. In the early days, you used to ask yourself, will they ever realize what they've done? But after enough nights of silence, you come to see that the question no longer matters. Because the narcissist does not live in the same world you do. They live in a world of illusions, where emotions have no depth, where love is merely a tool, where people exist only to serve the performance. You, on the other hand, no matter how much you've hurt, still feel, still love, still remember, still cry, and that is proof that you are alive. And that aliveness has already separated you from them forever. The narcissist's reckoning doesn't arrive in the dramatic ways you once imagined. It comes quietly, in cold mornings when they wake and find no one left to greet them. It comes in long nights when their messages go unanswered. It comes when they look around a silent room and realize that no one cares who they are anymore. This is not your punishment. It is the natural outcome of the emptiness they chose to live in. They had countless chances to heal, to learn how to love, to stop, but they refused. And now they have become the victims of their own creation. As for you, the one once dragged into the depths of their psychological games, you are slowly climbing back up, steady and sure. You're learning how to love without losing yourself. You're learning how to be silent without feeling lonely. You're learning how to let go without needing to win. Every breath you reclaim, every dream untainted by memories, every smile that no longer hides pain, these are the signs of rebirth. And one day, you realize the thing that once caused your deepest pain has become your greatest teacher in awakening. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you see the truth of the narcissist, and when you see the darkness within yourself, the part that was fragile, that loved too blindly, that feared loneliness enough to forget boundaries, you are no longer a victim. You become the conscious observer, the one who can look into the darkness without being consumed by it. When you reach that point, something miraculous happens. You no longer need answers from them, because everything they do, leaving, replacing you, pretending to be happy, coming back, and leaving again, is merely the expression of their inner void. Meanwhile, by pausing, breathing deeply, and choosing stillness, you have stepped out of the labyrinth. You have become sovereign not because you are stronger than them, but because you understand how darkness works. And once you understand it, it no longer controls you. No more guilt, no more manipulation by memories, no more trembling at the sound of their name, no more trying to prove your worth. You simply exist and live truthfully. They may still mention you, still try to pull you back into their story, still envy your peace, but now it no longer matters. Because the power has shifted. When you stop caring, they lose control. When you stop reacting, they lose fuel. When you stop looking back, they fade from your reality like a dream dissolving at sunrise. You don't need to wait for karma to punish them, because karma began the moment they lost you, the only person who ever loved them genuinely, the only mirror that reflected them with honesty, the only chance they had to see themselves through the light of love. You don't need to witness their downfall, because it brings nothing but pity. This lesson was never about them, it was about you. About the truth that love was never meant to be used for self-destruction. True love doesn't save anyone, it reveals the truth. And that truth is, if they refuse to face their own darkness, they will remain trapped in their endless loop. But you, the one who dared to face the pain, who dared to look into the mirror without fear, you have risen beyond that cycle. You have become the light they can never touch, not because you are better, but because you are real.